What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my betting breakdown video for UFC 281. We have Israel Adesanya going against Alex Pereira.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all it is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out.
And we're back for another betting breakdown video. This week, breaking down an absolute banger. We have a 14-fight card, and I'm really looking forward to it. The last 2 weeks in terms of, the name value, hasn't really been that there. I think these cards have been exciting, but, this card is just stacked from top to bottom. There's not a fight where I'm not looking forward to it on this card. So yeah, looking forward to every single fight. The main card's phenomenal. I think it's going to be a very good card, not only from a fan perspective, but from a betting perspective as well. I think there's a lot of spots that stick out. I have a lot of prop sprinkles, 15 bets in total. Not going too big really on any one spot, but just a ton of plus money spots that stick out. So can't wait to break it all down for you guys. Before we get started, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. If you want a further, more in-depth breakdown on why I am betting what, on why I'm picking which fighter, I did post a full card breakdown and prediction video earlier in the week on Monday, so check that out if you have not checked it out already. But lots to talk about. I say we get right into it, and we'll start with the first fight of the night. Carlos Ulberg going against Nikolai Negumereanu. We have Ulberg minus 130. Negumereanu is plus 110. Yeah, this is a pass for me, and I have a bet on pretty much every fight outside of the first 3 fights. So this is a fight where, I don't know, I'm kind of sketched out a little bit because I think Ulberg is the much more skilled fighter, but Negumereanu brings a couple things to the table that I think he has advantages. Like, I think Negumereanu is the more durable fighter. I think Negumereanu is going to have the better cardio. And, Ulberg at range, it's Ulberg all day. He's the much better striker. But, my concern is what happens if Negumereanu does close the distance, does push Ulberg against the cage, and does try to take him down. I haven't really seen much evidence of the takedown defense or the get-up game or the ground game of Ulberg. So I think it's enough for me to just stay away. If I had to bet on this fight, it would be the Ulberg money line, but I just can't get there. I even considered the over 1.5 rounds, which is minus 150, but even then I'm not really running to the window. So I'm going to pick Ulberg for the first fight of the night, but it's not a fight I really do want to bet on. Next, we have Montel Jackson going against Julio Arce. This is one of those fights where I like Jackson to win, but the odds are just a little bit too wide for my liking. I see a lot of people taking the dog shot on Julio Arce, and I get it to an extent. But I do like Montel Jackson to go out there and get the job done. A couple things that stuck out for Montel Jackson and why I do like him to win is he's much bigger. And we saw it at the ceremonial weigh-ins as well. He's much, much bigger than Julio Arce. The guy's huge for a bantamweight. He's going to have a height advantage, a reach advantage. He's younger as well. And in the stand-up, Julio Arce is a very good striker. I love the volume. I love the striking defense. The one thing that stuck out to me, though, in the striking was the power difference. Montel Jackson's power at bantamweight is unbelievable. The guy has 10 knockdowns and only 8 or 9 UFC. It's crazy. Whereas Julio Arce, he has about 1 knockdown in 8 or 9 UFC fights. So the power difference is going to heavily favor Montel Jackson. And then the third thing I kind of liked for Montel Jackson was the wrestling upside. The guy is completing takedowns at an insane clip, and we can see it here. Montel Jackson is completing those takedowns at a 78% clip, which is just unheard of, averaging over 4 takedowns per 15 minutes. And Julio Arce does have that 94% takedown defense, which looks great on paper, but you kind of dig into it a little bit more, and you're seeing that nobody's really trying to take this guy down outside of Dan Ige, who went 1 for 13 on takedowns. So I like Jackson here. I think he's younger, height advantage, reach advantage, power advantage, wrestling upside. But I feel like this could play out close, especially if Arce is able to stuff those takedowns. So I see why people are taking the dog shot on Arce. I'm going to pick Jackson, not in love with the minus 200, enough for me to stay away, but I'll take Jackson to get this done. No props really sticking out as well, but the pick is going to be Jackson. No bet. All right, next we have a fight where I'm kind of tempted on, but I feel like this could play out close, and we'll kind of talk about why. So, first of all, Mike Trizano did miss weight. He did not look the best at weigh-ins. Sungwoo Choi looked great, and Sungwoo Choi is about a minus 170 favorite here in this matchup. So, I'm tempted on Choi. I feel like this is a matchup that he really should win. But I also said that in his matchup in his last fight against Josh Culibao, who I thought, hey, Josh Culibao's not going to try to take down Choi. When Choi is losing, it's typically because he is getting taken down, he's getting subbed, he's getting controlled, and I didn't think Josh Culibao would do that, and he didn't. And it was a close fight. It was a split. Josh Kolobau knocked him down twice. And this is a fight where Mike Trizano's not going to take down Sungwoo Choi. It's just not Mike Trizano's game. There's been a ton of fights where I'm like, man, Mike Trizano has a clear path to victory if he wrestles, and that's the case here. It's just not something he does, so it's not something I'm expecting him to go out there and do. I think these guys are going to stand and bang, and when they do, one thing I noticed, and this is why I'm kind of not running to the window to lay money on Choi here, is Choi's striking accuracy really concerns me. I want to see what it is on paper. It's like 37% striking accuracy, so he's throwing a lot of volume, but he's missing a ton. His striking defense is also a concern at 45%. I also think that Trizano's pretty hittable. So those numbers kind of threw me off a little bit because he's attempting a lot. He's just not landing anything. But when he does land hard. It's just one of those fights where, I've disrespected Trizano before. I picked Klein against him. I didn't bet Klein at the number, but Klein was like minus 300, something crazy. And, Trizano did pull off the upset there. And I feel like that could potentially be the case here. I feel like Trizano could potentially make it close. I think he is very tough. He's only been knocked out once. So if this fight does go to decision, do I want to be holding a Sungwoo Choi ticket at minus 175? Probably not, but that was one spot I was kind of tempted on. And on, I believe, DraftKings Sportsbook, they have the double chance, which you can do the KO or decision for Sungwoo Choi, and they actually have it at minus 150. So you're improving that Choi price tag from like minus 175 to minus 150. The guy has 0 submission wins in his career. So I think that's how I would play it, if anything. But another spot where I'm just kind of sketched out a tad. And again, we are laying minus 175 on a fight I feel like could play out just a little bit closer. So I think I'm going to pass here, but the pick is going to be Choi. All right, guys, enough passing. Bets from here on out. And lots of spots sticking out from here on out. So we have Carolina Kovacovich going against Silvana Gomez Juarez. And this is my first bet of the card. And like I said earlier, 15 bets, but a lot of just prop sprinkles, a lot of light sprinkles. And this is my first light sprinkle of the card. So I put a quarter unit on Silvana Gomez Juarez to win by knockout, plus 340 on FanDuel Sportsbook. And that has came down a little bit. I still think it's like plus 300, which I know it's kind of crazy, right? Saying, a strawweight's going to go out there and get a knockout. Well, 2 strawweights last week went out there and got a knockout with Amanda Lemos and Polyana Viana. Like, these 115-pound women, they hit hard, especially Gomez Juarez. She hits like a truck. So, Carolina Kovacovich, she had a great win in her last fight. Felice Herrig. But Felice Herrig, that was her retirement fight. She looked atrocious. Before that, like, Carolina looked done. I was convinced that Carolina Kovacovich was going to retire after that Herrig fight, win or lose. And I thought it was a winnable matchup for her. I thought she was going to retire. Here she's back. And, Silvana Gomez Juarez, she's 37 as well. But, I still think that she has the power to go out there and really hurt Carolina. What I noticed about Carolina was she's tough. She is durable. But she absorbs a lot of strikes. And we could take a look at the exact numbers. Like, Carolina is absorbing 5.59 significant strikes per minute, which that's a concern to me. Because Silvana Gomez Juarez, like, she hits like a truck. All 3 of Silvana Gomez Juarez's fights in the UFC have ended in the very first round. So, should Carolina Kovacovich grapple? Absolutely. I think that's a big hole in the game of Juarez. But you kind of look through Carolina's career, and she's only completed 2 takedowns, which is a concern because she's been in the UFC for like 8 years, almost 9 years. So I don't really expect her to wrestle. I expect her to stand and strike here. And if she does, like, Juarez hits like a truck. So I think Carolina's going to get hit. I think she's going to get hit hard. And maybe she does retire after this fight. I thought she was going to retire after the last fight. So maybe this is her last fight. We'll have to see. But I did take a quarter unit shot on that Silvana Gomez Juarez knockout prop. I don't hate people taking a shot on the unders or the fight doesn't go to decisions, which we should be getting a better price because this is a strawweight fight at the end of the day, but they're definitely wise to it. Silvana Gomez Juarez has not seen even a second round in the UFC. So I don't hate the unders. I don't hate the fight doesn't go, but I'm personally more so on that Silvana Gomez Juarez side. All right, moving on, we have probably my favorite fight on the prelims. We have Matt Frivola going against Ottman Zaitar, another prop sprinkle for me. I have a Zaitar to win in the very first round. Quarter unit, plus 335. That line has came down a little bit. I still see it at like plus 290, plus 280. And I think that's how he wins. I think if he goes out there and wins this fight, it is in the first round, and it is by knockout. And that line kind of confuses me. I mean, plus 335 for a guy in Ottman Zaitar, who I think has like 8 or 9 first round finishes in his career. And I see this fight playing out one of two ways. The first way I see this fight playing out is Matt Frivola coming out here with a good game plan, which sometimes we see him come out there with a good game plan, like he did against Jalen Turner, like he did against Luis Pena, where he's going to wrestle for 15 minutes. And then sometimes we see Matt Frivola go out there with no game plan, or a game plan just to stand and bang until one man falls. Of course, he's been joking on Twitter all week, saying he's going to go out there and stand in the pocket and trade with Ottman Zaitar. I'll tell you right now, if he does that, he's getting knocked out. His chin is just not great. He's been dropped a ton in the UFC. He's been knocked out a ton in the UFC. Marco Polo Reyes dropped him twice, knocked him out. Lando Venata dropped him twice. Terrence McKinney knocked him out in 7 seconds. And Ottman Zaitar, he hits like an absolute truck. I mean, this guy has so much power. So if Matt Frivola goes out there and stands and strikes with this guy in the first round, I think he's getting knocked out. So that's kind of how I'm attacking it. If Ottman does not get that first round knockout, that probably means that Frivola did go out there and wrestle. I would not touch the money line of Ottman Zaitar here. It's like minus 140, minus 150 on some books. It just doesn't make a ton of sense to me because Matt Frivola does have a path to victory. It's just, is he going to take that path to victory, or does he want to go out there and get a fight of the night type performance? And in that case, I think he does get knocked out. So we'll see. But I did take a quarter unit stab on that Zaitar first round finish. I didn't go with the knockout or the sub, just the first round because there wasn't much difference in price. I think the first round KO was like plus 340, and then the first round in general was like plus 335. So I just took the plus 335 there. So quarter unit shot on the Zaitar first round prop. Don't hate it whatsoever if you are on the Zaitar side. All right, moving on. Andre Petroski going against Wellington Turman. And I took the dog shot here. I took the dog shot here on Wellington Turman, half a unit, plus 180, so beat a little bit of line movement here. The line just doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I mean, this is how I look at the matchup. Petroski is going to actually have a lot of disadvantages here. Wellington Turman is going to be the better striker. Wellington Turman is going to have the better cardio. Wellington Turman has fought the better competition. He's beaten the better guys. He's lost to the better guys. Petroski's going to be the better wrestler. He's going to be able to get takedowns here, and he's the harder hitter, more powerful guy, but I'm just not completely sold on Andre Petroski. This is kind of a show-me spot. I mean, he's looked good, but who's he looking good against? He's looking good against Yazong Hu, who's literally 3-3 in MMA, got cut. He's looked good against Michael Gilmore, who's like 6-5 in MMA, got cut. And he looked good against Nick Maximov, who got cut. And in that fight, he was like plus 350. I think this is a huge overreaction. And now we're getting Petroski as like a minus 200 favorite against Wellington Turman, who's going to be the toughest test of his career. And I'm watching Petroski, and he's slowing down in the first round against guys like Yazong Hu, Michael Gilmore. He's looking super tired, his mouth's wide open, breathing heavy. But he's able to kind of push through it, which, props to him for that. But these guys just aren't giving him any resistance whatsoever. Yazong Hu is no threat at all. Michael Gilmore, no threat at all. The guy's been submitted like 5 times. With Turman, I think he is going to provide some resistance. I think he does have solid takedown defense. He has that BJJ black belt. He's a young guy training with Glover Teixeira. He's been making a lot of improvements he's been talking about. Could Petroski knock him out in the first round? Sure. And that's kind of how I would play Petroski, would be that knockout prop. But it's only plus 240. I would need a much better line than that because he's not even knocking out like Zong Hu or Michael Gilmore. And it's taken like him over 2.5 rounds to finish these bottom of the barrel guys. So I'm taking the shot on Wellington Turman. I know a lot of people think he sucks. That's probably why he's plus 165 here. But I'm just not sold on Petroski yet. So we'll see what happens. But I'm taking the dog shot, not going crazy on it, just half a unit. Because at the end of the day, this is a very low level fight. All right, next we have Aaron Blanchfield going against Molly McCann. I took a shot on the fight. Doesn't go to decision here. Half a unit plus 140. It's still there on FanDuel Sportsbook. I think Blanchfield does win this fight, does win it inside the distance. I think it's a very tough matchup for Molly McCann. Actually, kind of, I don't know why she took the fight. Like, she's building all this hype up. She's signed the deal with Barstool. She's looking good. Back-to-back knockout wins, and then she takes a fight with Aaron Blanchfield. Like, it's a terrible matchup. I go back and watch the Laura Procopio fight, who has since then been cut. And that was like a year ago, and Procopio was just ragdolling her, like 8 takedowns in that fight. like 12 minutes of control time. I think Blanchfield's much better than Laura Procopio. So I think Blanchfield's very live to get this fight down to the mat. TKO, submission, I think are very live. Blanchfield black belt and BJJ. Molly McCann's been submitted by a black belt before in the UFC and Jillian Robertson. And yeah, Blanchfield's dangerous. I mean, she was very close to finishing Miranda Maverick multiple times. She had that crucifix, and then she almost got that armbar as well. I think if she gets McCann in the same spot, she could finish the fight. And the reason I don't mind the Blanchfield inside the distance, but the reason I took the fight doesn't go to decision is because Molly McCann, if she's getting her way here, she's going to have a big advantage on the feet. She's been showing a lot of power. It looks like she's going in there coked up these days, just going in there like a complete crazy person, and it's working. And she's knocking these fighters out. Like, if she's able to keep this fight standing somehow, I don't see it personally, but if she's able to keep this fight standing, maybe she does knock out Blanchfield as a big underdog. But I took the fight doesn't go, kind of cover both sides there, but I do fully think that Blanchfield does get the submission or the TKO at some point in this fight. But yeah, half a unit, fight doesn't go to decision, plus 140, that line is still there. Okay, Dominic Reyes going against Ryan Spann. Yeah, I think it's Ryan Spann here all day, and Dominic Reyes here all day, my bad. Definitely not Ryan Spann. But Ryan Spann did miss weight, and he did not look great. But there are some red flags and some question marks on the Dominic Reyes side, which has me not wanting to lay this price tag. And this is not really a price tag you want to lay at light heavyweight in general, just because these guys at these weight class, light heavyweight, heavyweight, they're so dangerous. And Ryan Spann is very dangerous. He's huge for the division. But, this should be Dominic Reyes all day. Dominic Reyes, stylistically, I think it's a great matchup for him. He has great takedown defense. He's going to be the much better striker. I mean, it was a couple fights ago where Ryan Spann was getting outlanded at times by Sam Alvey, got hurt by Sam Alvey. I think it was his last fight or the fight before, like one of his last couple fights. I mean, he got dropped twice by Anthony Smith. Just a terrible look. I know Dominic Reyes is on a 3-fight skid, but he's lost to champions. Blachowicz, John Jones, arguably won that fight, and then lost to Yuri Prochazka in a fight where he almost won it. And then ended up getting knocked out. But yeah, this should be Dominic Reyes all day. I just question where his head's at. Year and a half layoff. But if he shows up and he's anything like himself, I mean, he should smash Spann here. I do have a bet on this fight. I have a parlay for this card and UFC Vegas. I think it's 65 next week. The Derek Lewis Spivak fight night. So I have the fight doesn't go to decision. Minus 275 parlayed with Jack Della Maddalena, who is fighting Danny Roberts, minus 450. That came out to minus 150, and I have 1.5 units on that parlay, my only parlay of the card. I was looking at potentially parlaying up like a Blanchfield or like a Zhang Wei Li, but decided not to. Decided I really like Jack Della Maddalena next week, and we'll talk about that fight next week. But yeah, that's my parlay. Fight doesn't go in this fight, violence, and then next week, like some Jack Della Maddalena. All right, moving on, we have Brad Riddell going against Renato Moicano. And I do have a couple bets on this fight. I like violence here, and I like violence quite a bit. And I kind of doubled down on some violence here in a way. So I have 1 unit on the fight doesn't go to decision, minus 120. That line, as far as I'm concerned, is still there, which is interesting because I think it's a really good violent fight here. And then I also took a quarter unit and put it on Moicano's sub at plus 450. And then I put a quarter unit on Brad Riddell to win by KO at plus 350. So basically 1.5 units total here on some violence. So the reason I did that quarter unit shot on both paths to victory is because you take a look at these guys and we see that Brad Riddell, 50% knockout rate, no submissions. And he's not submitting Moicano. It's not happening. And then Moicano, 56% submission rate, or 56% submission rate, no knockout. So added the quarter unit sprinkle to the Brad Riddell knockout. If he knocks him out, there you go. And Moicano submission, if he submits him, plus 450, which is just wild to me. I mean, I think that's how he wins. So, liking violence here. These guys get finished a ton. Brad Riddell finished in all 3 of his losses 100%. Point out that Moicano finished in 4 of his 5 losses. And the one loss where he did not get finished in, he got finished like 5. I mean, the fight should have been stopped a million times. So, arguably, they've been finishing all their losses. I'm not sure why the RDA fight was not stopped. But, yeah, I think it's simple as this. Brad Riddell, good chance to knock out Moicano. I question the chin. I question the durability. I question the striking defense. Brad Riddell does throw some power. He likes to get into these wars. And Moicano's super live for a sub. I think he's super live for a club and sub. If he gets the fight down to the mat, it's his world. This guy's legit on the mat. He's been going for takedowns more. I'm going to pick Moicano to win by sub, but I like violence. I like the fight doesn't go. And like I said, the quarter unit sprinkle on both guys' path to victory inside the distance. So 1.5 units total on some violence here. Okay, next we have Dan Hooker going against Claudio Puelles. And I have two bets here. The first bet is Claudio Puelles to win by sub, plus 400 quarter unit. And I posted this on Twitter. I'm like, if you think that Dan Hooker is washed or a bum, which a lot of people seem to do this week, you got to bet that sub. I mean, that's how Claudio Puelles wins. He's not going to knock out Dan Hooker, although I've heard some ridiculous takes that he is. Is he going to leg kick him to death or body kick? I don't know. And then is he going to win a decision against Dan Hooker? No, he's not going to do that. I think if Claudio Puelles does win, it's going to be by sub. So I bet that for a quarter unit at plus 400, fully intending on potentially smashing the Dan Hooker money line throughout the weekend. I did a good job waiting on the line movement here. I was able to get Dan Hooker minus 142. And I missed, like, it got down to like minus 139, but and then more money started coming in on Dan Hooker throughout the week. So I put down 2 units on Dan Hooker at minus 142, and then I also have that hedge of the Claudio Puelles submission at plus 400. But I'll be honest, guys, I'm very confident in Dan Hooker. I think it's a terrible matchup for Claudio Puelles. I think if this matchup was 2 years ago, year and a half ago, Dan Hooker would be minus 1,000. I mean, it's a horrible matchup for Puelles. On the feed, it's Dan Hooker all day. It's not even close. Dan Hooker's not like some bum grappler that's been submitted a million times. He's only been submitted once in the UFC by Islam Makhachev. The guy's solid honestly, a solid grappler, very underrated grappler, just doesn't go to it. He's fought really good grapplers before, and he's beat the crap out. I mean, he knocked out Gilbert Burns in the first round, knocked out Jim Miller in the first round. I kind of think he runs through Claudio Puelles. I think it could definitely be inside the distance, but I just took the money line because Claudio Puelles is very, very tough. He's shown his toughness, but this is just a horrible matchup for him. I think Claudio Puelles is knee bar or bust here. And is he going to knee bar Dan Hooker? I wouldn't think so unless he actually is washed, but I don't think he's washed. He's only 32 years old. He's run into some tough competition. Arnold Allen down a weight class, which he should not have went down a weight class, but he did, and he looked horrible and got knocked out. Arnold Allen's going to be fighting for a title soon, though, and then he got submitted by Islam Makhachev, who nobody's going to beat Islam Makhachev for a very long time. So I can forgive him for those losses. If he loses to Claudio Puelles, I cannot forgive him. Then we can talk about, Dan Hooker's washed now. And then we can talk about, if he loses to Claudio Puelles, something's wrong, because this is like the easiest fight for Dan Hooker in a long, long time. A very, very long time. This kind of reminds me of the Paul Craig Volkan Oezdemir fight, where everybody was on Paul Craig, submission or bust guy. Same thing. I think Claudio Puelles is submission or bust, more specifically knee bar or bust. If he knee bars Dan Hooker, honestly, I'll be in shock. I will be in absolute shock. So yeah, I mean, I got 2 units on Dan Hooker. I was going to add more if the line kept coming in on Claudio Puelles, and it did for a second, but then it went back in on Hooker. So we'll see where the line goes. I might add a little bit more on Dan Hooker, but 2 units on Dan Hooker at the moment at minus 142. And like I said, I have a quarter unit hedge on that Claudio Puelles submission prop at plus 400, which is just a ridiculous line. I mean, that's how he wins. I think that should be more correlated towards his money line because he is not knocking out Dan Hooker and he's not winning a decision. I'd be shocked if either happens. So give me Dan Hooker for the win. And give me Dan Hooker to probably knock this guy out, but I'm not messing around with the props. Just like the money line there. All right, moving on. We have Chris Gutierrez going against Frankie Edgar. I do have 2 bets on this fight. The first one, the line's not really playable at this point, unless you still have bet online. Let me see what it is at. But I have 2.5 units on the Chris Gutierrez finish only. The scorecards equals no action. It actually opened up minus 200. And then it went to minus 210, and it was there for a couple days, I think. Yeah. And then I played it there at minus 210 for 2.5 units. But as the week has went on, that line has been completely smashed. So that's not really playable unless you want to, parlay it or something. But Gutierrez scorecards, no action. I do have 2.5 units on that. If you can get if you see a book that has it like anything better than minus 250, I would put 2.5 units on it. See what FanDuel and DraftKings have that at, but I don't see Frankie Edgar finishing this fight. He has not finished a fight since like 2018, 17. It's been a while. So I have that bet. And then the other bet I have is the split decision. And I've bet like 4 of these, and I have not hit one yet. 0-4. But this one makes a lot of sense to me. The split decision for the Edgar Gutierrez fight at plus 550. I think it's been hit a little bit. I think it's like plus 500. But still, I mean, I think this fight probably does go to decision. I think this fight is going to probably be close unless Frankie's like completely washed. And I mean, this is a step down for Frankie Edgar. And it was just last fight where he was looking good against Marlon Vera, getting takedowns, getting control time, arguably winning those first 2 rounds. Yes, he got kicked in the face in the 3rd round, but, that's Marlon Vera. He's getting knocked out by Sandhagen. I mean, these are the best guys in the division. I think we can forgive him a little bit. And it was just 2 fights ago where Chris Gutierrez was going to split decision against Felipe Calorish. The same Felipe Calorish who was dominated by Chase Hooper. Not a good look. And he's going to a lot of split decisions as well. I mean, he's getting taken down. I don't think he has a good get-up game. I think he has good takedown defense, but his get-up game is just non-existent. He's content to just lay on his back. Very bad look in that Calorish fight. Very bad look in the Cody Durden fight, who Durden's a flyweight. And he 10-8'd him in the first round. So this is such a winnable matchup for Frankie Edgar. It's a very winnable matchup. It's just, he's 41 years old. I question the durability. But it's tempting. But at the end of the day, do I really want to bet on a 41-year-old who's literally retiring? Not really, but that split prop is interesting. Plus 550 quarter unit. I don't hate the Frankie Edgar decision only as well. I think it'd be worth a look. It's like plus 165 on DK. If the fight does go to decision and he wins it, that's good. If he gets finished or anybody gets finished, the bet is voided. So I don't hate the decision only, but I don't know, just putting my money on a 41-year-old at this point, I don't know. I think I'm going to stay away, but it's a winnable matchup. It's a winnable matchup for Frankie Edgar. It's just, is he too washed at this point? I don't know what to see. But yeah, 2.5 units, Gutierrez finish only, scorecards no action, and then a quarter unit on the split. Hopefully hit one of these someday. All right, next we have Dustin Poirier going against Michael Chandler. I do have a bet here as well. I have Poirier inside the distance, half a unit, plus 115. That line is still plus money out there. And I like Poirier in this match, but I like him quite a bit. I think Michael Chandler's round 1 or bust. And I don't think he's like completely done in the first round, but that's where he's most dangerous. He's 36 years old. He's taken a ton of damage. He's been knocked out 4 times. And, Poirier, he's very durable. And he came in really good shape at the weigh-ins. I was kind of curious to see what shape Poirier would come in. Is he motivated? Is he not? He has the hot sauce thing going on. Lots of things going on outside the cage, but he looked in incredible shape. One of the very first couple guys to come in, which I like to see there. So I do think Poirier is very motivated, and that's good in this matchup. I think he's going to have to walk through fire in the first round. If you like Michael Chandler, I think the first round knockout prop is something to consider. But I think Poirier does survive that early storm, and I think he just puts it on Chandler in that second and third round if it gets to the third. And I think Poirier finishes Michael Chandler, and I'm going to say in that second round. So I like Poirier. Don't love the money line, but I like him inside the distance. I don't think this fight goes the distance. The fight doesn't go minus 240. Honestly, probably not the worst parlay piece in the world. I think these guys are going to absolutely throw down. But I'm going to say Poirier does knock out Michael Chandler in that second round. And I do have a half a unit on him at plus 115 to win inside the distance. Okay, co-main event, Zhang Weili going against Carla Esparza. I have the under 4.5 rounds here, and I got that at plus 106, and I have a half a unit on it. The line is about a pick'em there for the under. I don't know. I feel like if this fight does go to decision, it probably means that Carla Esparza won the fight, honestly. I mean, I think on the feet, it's Zhang Weili all day. I don't think it's close. I think Carla's going to get hurt very bad on the feet. If Carla's not able to take down Zhang Weili and hold her down, it's going to be a very rough night for Carla Esparza. Because at range, it's Zhang Weili all day, and it's not even close. And that's kind of how I see it. I think if Esparza does get the wrestling going, I think at some point during the fight, they are going to be at range, and I think Zhang Weili really hurts Carla Esparza and puts her out. The reason I went with that under was because for some reason they had Zhang Weili, and they still do, Zhang Weili to win inside the distance at minus 125. You might as well just take the under at, honestly, a better price or about the same price on some books. So I would just lean the under just in case something crazy happens. Carla Esparza, I don't know, gets a TKO or sub. I don't think it happens, but just in case, I mean, you're getting a better price even just to take the under, right? So I am on that under. I do think Zhang Weili finishes Carla Esparza. If she doesn't finisher, that probably means that Carlo was able to have success and win this fight by decision, mixing takedowns, control, Zhang Weili. And a lot of people I see on Carlo, a lot of people taking the big dog shot. Carlo by decision plus 500. Carlo decision only would be something I'm looking at if I'm on Esparza, but I'm not. I think Zhang Weili does finish her in very, very, very brutal fashion. So give me Zhang Weili for the win, but I do like that under 4.5 rounds. And then the main event, Israel Adesanya going against Alex Pereira. I have a half unit shot on the fight doesn't go to decision at plus 108. I know Adesanya is a decision guy, but I do think this fight's a little bit different. Alex Pereira has never seen the 4th round. He's never seen the 5th round, and I really don't like his defense. His striking defense is very bad. I feel like Adesanya is very live to counter this guy and knock him out. And again, with the 4th round, 5th round aspect of things, I don't hate a plus money shot on that fight. Doesn't go to decision. On the flip side, I mean, if Alex Pereira wins, it's by knockout. There's no other way around it. He's not going to go out there and win a 5-round decision against Adesanya. Adesanya decision only is like minus 600. You know, they're telling you something there. So I think it covers the Pereira side, and I think it covers the Adesanya side. I think Adesanya is going to have opportunities to counter this guy and hit him very hard. Like, Alex Pereira's striking defense is not good. So I'm taking a shot and the fight doesn't go. Could it be another boring Adesanya fight? It could be, but plus money in an Alex Pereira fight, I'm willing to take the shot there. So those are my bets. Lots of plus money shots. Not too many big bets this week. But yeah, lots of props that I do like. We'll quickly go over my action. I have 2 units on Dan Hooker, minus 142. Might add on there depending on where the line goes. If he goes to like minus 130, minus 120 for some reason, I will be adding on. If not, then I'll stick with those 2 units. I have a half a unit shot on Wellington Turman, plus 180. Half a unit on Esparza Zhang Weili, under 4.5 rounds, plus 106. Half a unit on Adesanya Pereira, fight doesn't go to decision, plus 108. Half a unit on McCann Blanchfield, fight doesn't go to decision, plus 140. The Chris Gutierrez scorecards equals no action, minus 210, 2.5 units on that. Brad Riddell, Renato Moicano, fight doesn't go to decision, 1 unit on that, minus 120. My only parlay of the week is Dominic Reyes, Ryan Spann, fight doesn't go to decision, parlay with Jack Della Maddalena, and he does fight next week, 1.5 units, minus 150. And I have Dustin Poirier inside the distance, half a unit, plus 115. Claudio Poyas wins by submission, quarter unit, plus 400, little hedge there, because I think that's how he wins, and I think that line is insane. Brad Riddell wins by knockout, quarter unit, plus 350. Moicano wins by submission, quarter unit, plus 450. I have the Frankie Edgar, Chris Gutierrez, someone wins by split or majority decision, plus 550. I have a quarter unit on Silvana Gomez Juarez wins by knockout, plus 340. And then a quarter unit on Ottman Zaitar wins in the first round at plus 335. So yeah, guys, lots of action, lots of plus money shots. We'll see what happens. Lots of violence. Looking for violence in a lot of these fights. So if it's a violent night, it'll probably be a good night. If it's a night full of decisions, it probably will be a bad night. So hoping for some violence. Best of luck, guys. Leave a like, subscribe. Check out dfsbythenumbers.com. Lots of content on there. Already getting into next week's card and a lot of spots I like next week. I think I like next week's card from a betting perspective even more in terms of like the big bets, but this is a card where I think a lot of plus money sprinkles do stick out. You can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers. Instagram is DFS by the numbers. I should be live tweeting all the good stuff. If you have any questions, you can hit me up on there. And then I'll be going live 1 hour or 2 hours actually prior to the prelims. The prelims start at 6 Eastern, I believe. We'll be going live at 4 Eastern. I'll have a full panel for best bet, giving the best bet for each and every fight on the card, and then I'll be back to answer any questions after we go through all the fights. So leave a like, subscribe. See you guys. Best of luck. UFC 281. Let us make some